This Japanese Grand Prix 2024 betting recap edition of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play their fantasy pick'em for a chance to win 100x in NBA, MLB, NHL, golf, NASCAR, F1, and more. Sign up today using promo code RACESGPN to get a 100% deposit match. We're also brought to you by the premier arbitrage sports betting tool, AVO. Use their tool to bet both sides and lock in a profit. Access their platform for free at arbsvsodds.com. That's arbsvs.com. Plus, in honor of the Masters Week, the Golf Gambling Podcast guys are giving away a tailor-made Spider X putter for free. Enter today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/masters. Get ready for speed.
You just wait, sunshine. You just wait.
Get ready for the passion.
To whom it may concern you.
Get ready for the raw emotion.
Sì, ragazzi! Grazie, grazie, grazie! Dai, forza Ferrari!
Get ready for the F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb. Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. This recap is going to be quick because guess what? It's the same as every other week. So thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll see you next week for another race where obviously Max Verstappen is going to win. Cody, listen, I almost don't want to say that it's just getting repetitive, and maybe as a podcast listener, I'd be like, well, Jesus Christ, what are they going to say next? But God, Cody, it's getting repetitive, and as a podcast listener, Jesus Christ, what are they going to say next?
Yeah, you kind of feel that way as a fan too, where it's like, okay, same, different week, same story, right? But hey, again, we've talked about it a few times. You have to. It's impressive. It's I saw that Red Bull now has as many wins as Mercedes does, and obviously they've only fairly recently joined the grid. In this century even. So yeah, it's pretty incredible, and obviously everything that Max has done is just outstanding. And they've obviously. We talk a lot about how F1 is. It's all about technical stuff, right? And getting the cars right. And they've done that, and nobody is anywhere close to them. So that's just how it goes. That's why we watch the battle for the rest of the field, Rod. That's why I was sweating. Was there any chance that Hülkenberg was going to get up and take Tsunoda out for the points finish? Because that's what I was rooting for, Rod. Unfortunately, that didn't happen either. But, this was actually a really exciting race. There was a lot of strategy throughout the day. You get a big crash basically right at the start, right? Basically right into that first turn there. I think that's the second year in a row we've had that. So a couple, I think it was Ricardo and Albon go out in that red flag, big break. They had to fix the barrier. So everybody gets out of the cars, and then the strategy kind of picked up right from there. So you had kind of constant differing strategies. And there was even a glimpse of a moment there where it's like, okay, Mercedes on a completely different strategy here. Like, is there a way this could work? And it wasn't even close really by the end of the day, but you thought about it, and there was definitely some storylines and the races off of pit road, and here's how long it normally takes, and then some guys getting slower pit stops than other guys and whatnot. So there was plenty of storylines throughout the race. So I actually was able to stay up this whole race. Got over about 2 a.m. my time, but had the toothpicks in the eyelids by the end of the night, but made it to the end and got to see the whole thing without having to finish watching in the morning. So that was nice. But there was plenty of storylines that kept up through the day that kept an exciting race.
And I actually enjoyed the fact that there was as much ducking and weaving behind Max Verstappen. I mean, obviously, and really too, what surprised me, and we'll talk about it later on when we recap the bets. Like, this was not one where Max Verstappen could take a 6-hour break in the middle of the race during his pit stop and grab a couple of bites to eat and take a shower and get back in the car. I mean, he lost the lead on a pit stop, which is very rare anymore for Max Verstappen to lead or to lose a lead at any point in the race. So that just goes to show you that the rest of the field was not necessarily being dusted by him. Now, granted, I still know that at the end of it, he was dusted, but
Right.
Right,
and those strategies there, if a wreck happens at the right time, or there's, ends up being a safety car, that can completely flip everything. And we see that a lot in NASCAR, where it's like, he stayed out an extra 50 laps and, it ruined his day. He had a bad finish, but had that caution flag come out, right? Or had the safety car come out in this case, then all of a sudden it shortens up those times. They're able to duck in the pits at different times. It at least makes it more of a race, right? It's still going to be pretty hard to beat Max straight up, but definitely keeps you guessing, keeps you on your toes. And had anything else happen in that race, maybe things would have switched around a little bit. But end of the day, kind of same story as we've seen pretty much most of the season.
Pretty much most of the last couple of seasons, but
and pretty much most of the rest of the season too.
All right, well, we'll get to all of our bets in a second, but I want to take a second and tell you about the Golf Gambling Podcast, boys. Look, in honor of the Masters, this week, the Golf Gambling Podcast guys are giving away a tailor-made Spider X putter for free. If you want this beautiful putter, look at that thing. I could tear up the mini golf course with that thing right now. I think I'm going to try to enter it because I want to be the most well-equipped guy on that mini golf course. So I'm going to head over right now to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/masters to get my entry in so that all the little 5-year-olds can be looking at me in awe as I break out my Spider X putter from TaylorMade. Again, that's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/masters. What do you say, Cody? Do you think I'd overshadow everybody on the mini golf course with that?
I think you probably already overshadow everybody, but with that putter, you definitely would. We've got a little, we have an indoor one here that's like Jurassic Park themed dinosaur one. So, yeah, I think that I would look pretty good with that there. So, luckily, I've already entered. It's pretty easy. It takes about less than 30 seconds to get entered. So, make sure you go over there and check those guys out as well, because a great show. Masters week, big week, of course, as we know, and in the golf world. So those guys do a great job over there.
Yeah, they do. Just like every other show on this network. I know we're only spotlighting the golf channel right now, but make sure you're up and down the SGPN.
I love this new spotlighting a new show every week, because some people may not know we're a big network. I think there's 27 shows on the network right now. So there's a lot of different shows throughout this thing for all sorts of sports, from golf to hockey to soccer to baseball, basketball, all the big stuff. Of course, F1 like you're listening to here, NASCAR we have as well. So yeah, so it's a great network with a lot of good content.
Agreed. Speaking of good content, I think we put out some good content this last week, as a matter of fact, breaking down this Japanese Grand Prix. And yeah, so let's start going over this betting card as we start to walk through this race as well.
Yeah, speak for yourself, Rod. Well, I referenced it earlier. I had Nico Hülkenberg to get a points finish plus 150. Looking back, I think this wasn't a bad bet to make, plus 150. A lot of times the points numbers, I mean, there's the obvious people who are going to finish in the points, right? And their numbers are just not bettable. It's too big of a number. But plus 150 was a great one. Hülkenberg has been on a pretty good streak this season, and he's really been in the points or flirting with the points each and every week. Same story this week. For a while, I felt pretty good about this as I was trying to you're trying to keep up with who's on which strategy, who needs to pit again. Unfortunately, he had one last pit stop in him, and that puts Tsunoda ahead of him. But he finishes 11th, so one spot out of the points finish there. Obviously, you end up with basically. So I think Stroll was the only one of the big 5 teams that didn't. So there was only one spot. None of the big guys went out. Of course, that first wreck was Ricardo and Albon, but had that been, one of these, a Russell or a Hamilton or one of these other guys open up another spot, Hülkenberg would have been in there. So doesn't cash, but a plus 150, I think it was still pretty decent value, and going to be a guy probably going to continue to keep an eye on where his number's at as we go week to week, because he's been flirting right around there each and every time. And I mean, kind of seems to be the lead guy over at Haas at this point in time for as many races as we are into the season this year. He's been the better performing Haas, I think, in all but one race maybe so far. So, yeah, something to keep an eye on, but unfortunately didn't catch this time.
And he was actually putting up pretty decent lap times in practice, and obviously made it through to Q2. And, Haas has not been that hot lately. So for them to make it to Q2, like, that's pretty good. So I was impressed with him. Boy, that's so frustrating, right? Just to have one. I mean, but the script says, Cody, that Tsunoda has to have a point finish in his home.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a great story, and it's good to see for sure, right? You like to see things like that. Maybe you wish I would have. I don't remember what his number was, but maybe lean into the narrative a little more. But yeah, we thought weather could play a factor too. At the time when we recorded last week, it looked like weather was probably. I mean, it was starting to kind of taper off as far as the forecast, but you look like maybe it would play a factor. I think that would have helped Hulkenberg as well. Obviously, that didn't play a factor at all. It was completely dry, so we didn't get that part of it. But oh well, more on to next week, Rod.
On to
Cincinnati.
On to Cincinnati. Well, is that
or China? Same difference.
China, China. They both start with C. All right, so I called my shot early among the two Ferrari cars, and I said that Carlos Sainz would have yet another week better than Charles Leclerc. Is there a better FU tour right now than Carlos Sainz? I mean, the guy's without a ride right now, and he's literally outperforming the guy that's going to be staying with Ferrari next season. I can't think of a better way to say, okay, that's cool, than to keep going out and performing better than the guy that you are supposed to be, teammates with. So Carlos Sainz ends up finishing better than Charles Leclerc in this one as well this week. Sainz finished in third, Leclerc finished in fourth. And listen, it was even a miracle that Leclerc finished in fourth because he started eighth. He wasn't even putting up great times over the course. I think this had a lot to do with
his strategy was, because I think he also, I believe, ended up on the one-stop strategy.
Yeah.
So he led for a portion because he was staying out longer than everyone. So that definitely helped his finish. But, man, Carlos Sainz, I believe now he's on the podium in every race that he started this year. Of course, he missed the one race with his appendix. He had the surgery for that, and Bierman came in and did well. But, he's really kind of showing him, like, fine. I mean, it's hard to argue Lewis Hamilton, right? Because he's obviously one of the greatest to ever do it, if not the greatest. But Sainz is like, hey, man, I'm still a pretty fucking good driver. So, and I think, I don't remember if it was on the pre-race show they were talking about it. At some point, Sainz seems to maybe be getting antsy about wanting to get a deal done for next year. And, man, I mean, if you've got a seat open, I don't really know what else you need to see from this guy because he's doing a pretty good job. So, continues to be impressive. This was a great call by you, Rod.
I wonder too, can he take the spot of a Logan Sargent? Do you think Williams would try to take a chance on him? Do you think he'd improve that equipment? Because when Hamilton comes over to Ferrari, that's almost an auto bet every single week for Hamilton to do anything, right? Because if Sainz can drive the hell out of this car, can Hamilton do it?
I mean, let's keep in mind Hamilton's getting older too. I know the Mercedes hasn't been. I'm very interested to see what it looks like, right? Because we see it from older drivers, Rod. Jimmy Johnson, you put him in a fast cup car, and even in the Hendrick cars at the end, it wasn't. I don't know, but who knows? It'll be interesting to see. But does Sainz want to have to go to a Williams? You would hope there's a better ride for him, right? And Mercedes has a spot open, so I don't really know what the holdup is there. Checo still is in a contract year, I do believe. So I know that he's been doing a pretty good job. There could be some considerations there. It'll be interesting to see, obviously, what else maybe opens up or what it is. But you've got to think someone like Sargent is probably out of a ride next year, right? So, again, that's going to be part of that silly season that we're definitely going to be interested to see how it lands.
Yes, we will. All right, we'll get to your next bet, Cody, but let's talk first about Underdog Fantasy. Look, all season long, we've been high on Underdog Fantasy because not only are they giving us the best of football and baseball and basketball and hockey and all those other sports that don't matter, but they've been giving us racing, and that is what's been fantastic. NASCAR, F1, they have given us racing, and they've cleaned up the language to make it easier for you guys to play during the racing contests. So, if you want to get in on this, all you got to do is pick better or worse than the projected finishing position of the drivers that they give you. I mean, Max Verstappen every single week is better than 0.5. So I guess if you hammer that one, you're definitely going to win each and every week. But there's also other sports out there like I said, baseball. There's basketball going on right now. And so many other sports that you just pick higher than or lower than their projected points, their projected totals, whatever it is. And you get to watch the multiplier stack up as you continue to make your picks up to 5. And if you look for that spicy little chili, there is an opportunity for you to win up to 100x on your entry. So easy to do. Plus, they've got the rivals too, where you could pick the matchups and the head-to-head matchups on these guys. Again, there's so much to do on Underdog. I can't even fit it into this ad span, so you need to go experience it for yourself. You want to do that? Go right now to Underdog Fantasy and sign up today with our promo code RACESGPN to get your first deposit double up to $100. And you're also going to get an instant pick'em special. So visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. Don't forget to register with our promo code RACESGPN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100, as well as that instant pick'em special. Must be 18 or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Let's continue down the road. Cody, where did you go next?
Do we have to, Rod?
Yeah, I think we do. We wouldn't be a responsible recap show if we didn't.
Sometimes I hate these recap shows when things don't go my way, but I tried calling my shot on McLaren this week. I really felt like this was going to be maybe a week from them, but just not so much. There were some signs of life in practice. Piastri, at the top of the board for P2, but not many people put in time, so that was like, qualifying, Norris starts third, so you're like, okay, that's solid. Piastri starts sixth. All right, that's all I need is them to just finish where they start, right? Third, sixth, that's fine. I had the double top six at minus 120, and then I went with the double podium at 14-1, realizing that was probably highly unlikely, but maybe there was a shot with the track history here and with what we kind of seen from him. Norris ends up in fifth, so he holds up his end of the bargain. Piastri, though, eighth place, unfortunately. The two Red Bulls obviously won two, then the two Ferraris. Then you got Norris. Alonso slips in there. Russell sneaks in there kind of on his strategy call with the one stopping. Of course, he passed Piastri late, but Piastri was sixth place fairly late in this race. But then Alonso and Russell with the fresher tires kind of ran him down. And unfortunately, this bet did not cash.
And really, that's what it all boiled down to as well. It was just the fact that Fernando and Russell, and listen, Fernando, we'll talk about him in a second. He was fast all race long. And I mean, luckily he clung on to us. He almost did not cling on to that sixth place. It was not till the very end, the last few laps, that he managed to get that back. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately for McLaren, they look so good. And then they have races like this, right? Where a sixth and an eighth place finish, you're not necessarily that, or a fifth and an eighth place finish, you're not necessarily saying, oh, that's horrible. But of course, when you're McLaren,
be better though. It should be better, Rod.
You want 3-4, you want 2-3, you want 1-2 even. So yeah, I get it. The frustration in that.
Yeah, and it's just to the point of, I mean, really, we've got the pecking order, and it's going to be Red Bull, Ferrari. We're going to have to find ways to get creative with that for these next few GPs, I think, because it's going to be tough for anyone else, I think, to crack these top four without some type of other issue.
Yep, indeed. Well, speaking of somebody else trying to crack that top four, that's Fernando Alonso. Hey, listen, he was actually really quick in practice. He was throwing up some very, very fast lap times in practice, and I thought for sure we could get a podium finish from Alonso. But granted, I didn't need a podium finish for him. All I needed was a top six finish out of him, and thank God he did. And he started in fifth place. So again, he put in a quick Q3 time, and I thought, okay, great, we are solid as long as he could just stay right where he's at. Well, he was staying somewhere close to that top three too for a little while as well. But man, sometimes strategy just gets you to the point where you're like, man, because Alonso was on this, he was on the soft tires, right? I think he started on the soft, and continued to go. And I thought, well, this is it, because there's no way he's going to be able to stay and keep this strategy. Thankfully, he did. He nursed those tires pretty well and got to the point where he was able to pit. And, I thought maybe he would come in for tires after that first safety car, right, where we had that wreck between Ricardo and I thought, well, maybe he'll come and get hards and we'll see what happens there, but or at least mediums, but didn't, and still managed to get there. And it took, boy, I tell you, it took getting to Russell at the end. And I thought, man, I hope he can get there. And thank God Russell had older tires and Alonso had some fresher tires to run him down, because once he got in DRS range, that was it. Like that, I knew we were safe once he got in DRS range. It was going to take a couple laps, but I knew we were home free to get a top 6 for Alonso. But this one was a little bit closer than I wanted it to be. It's still plus 170, which was great, but I was sweating this one.
Hey, this is look in a race where it's again Max Verstappen and Red Bull up top. A good way to sweat it down the board, and this one did kind of come down to the end, like you said. I mean, they were running down Piastri there and getting in. There was only one DRS zone, so there wasn't a ton of opportunity to pass, and made it work. And he looked, made some veteran moves out there for sure, especially making those tires last as long as he did. So, yeah, great call by you. And 170, that's a great number. So, yet another bad call from me, as they all were this week. This might be the first time I've had a full losing card over on the F1 side, which is not something I hope to ever do again. But hey, here we are recapping it because that's how it goes. You win some, you lose some, and luckily I made it all back on UConn yesterday with the them holding off and kicking Purdue's ass. So there is that at least. But I had again. When you go all in on one bucket, it can go one of two ways, Rod. We had a race last year where I went all in on Alonso and he just cashed a fuck ton of bets. Went the opposite way with McLaren this week. I had winner without the favorite to be Lando, 6-1. Oscar to finish in the top 2 at 10-1. Lando again starts P3, so you're like, okay, he's right there. Maybe he can get Checo on the start, and then he's just able to hold him off or something. And then he was battling up there for a little while. He did have, I'm trying to remember exactly how it worked, but there was one pit stop where he came in, and I think he was right even with Sainz, I think it was, and his pit stop was just a fraction slower than Sainz. Sainz gets out in front of him, and then, with Leclerc running his long strategy, it still looked like Norris maybe would get a top 3, but get on the podium, or top 4, I guess, because you were going to catch the Red Bulls, but then Leclerc obviously stays out long and keeps it in front of Norris. So just not really a chance here. I mean, starting in third place was kind of your best sniff at it, and then kind of dissipated from there.
Can the books please give us longest pit stops? Because I want to hammer all of the
Kick Sauber cars.
All the Sauber cars, please, man. Those guys.
You just bet. Didn't they have another slow one this week? But it was like, it was like 8 seconds, and it was like, oh my God, look how fast this pit stop was for them.
Because Crafty was not Crafty, but the other guy was like, well, not nearly as long as the.
Yeah, exactly.
But definitely not short,
bro. Again, I guess there has to be a worse team on pit road out there, but it's been rough for those Kick Sauber boys.
Yeah, they are not loving pit stops right now. They're probably still pitting. Is one of them still in there? Is Zhou Guanyu? Oh, he's off.
Nope. Zhou Guanyu was out early. You think maybe you combine the best guys from each side then, but not great for our guy Valtteri Bottas is again just fucking slow ass pit stop. I'm just gonna luckily no bets on him this week because and what's crazy too is like he still ends up 14th. Like I know we had 3 guys out of the race, but didn't finish that bad comparatively speaking, and still fucking slow ass pit stops.
Yeah, well, he beat both Alpines who have been trashed this year, and Logan Sargent, who wrecked in practice. So, boy, you want to talk about a bad team?
Okay, I guess he didn't really do that much impressive, Ron.
That Williams team's is running out of chassis quick, are they not?
Yeah,
keep wrecking.
It's a good thing there's no GP this week. My goodness, can we get these guys some more chassis?
Goodness, they're treating them like Lego cars.
Stop fucking practicing or something.
Reattach them after every race.
It's been rough for those Williams boys.
It sure has. All right. So I gave you the winning margin over 21.5. And then actually we got it down to 20 on DRF, the book, not DRS, DRF, the book. And yeah, I mean, Max did, like I said, he won by 12 seconds. I almost wonder, Cody, if this was just him taking it easy, because I know he likes to push it, but by the same token, we just saw him cruise. Like we didn't see him expending too much energy. We didn't hear him bitching and complaining about anything. Like he just cruised.
Did Max get more than 5 minutes of TV time? I don't think, which was honestly kind of nice. There were so many other things going on, so many other battles. They didn't really focus on Max, which is fine. If he's going to go beat up on everyone, yeah, he's the leader. You give him his due, right? He's going to get all the attention afterwards and everything. And we know he's up there. But it was kind of nice for them to be covering everyone else. And for there to be constant battles, and it didn't get so strung out that it was just focused in on Max. So that was nice. But yeah, we didn't hear as much, of his normal complaining as he's leading by 12 seconds. He did get 20 seconds over Sainz. So, if his pesky teammate wouldn't have been hanging there 12 seconds behind, you would have cashed this one. But just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, Max did not go off into that Japanese sunset. So that's all right, though. I mean, look, that's a bet you don't feel bad making, especially a plus money every single week when he's fully capable of doing it. So,
well, and look, if you want to find a way to bet on Max to win, you have to do it a way that's not minus 700. You're getting plus 40 here. You knew Max was going to win this race. There was almost no question about it, hence being minus 700. How is he going to do it? He's probably going to win by a lot, right? And he still won by 12 seconds. It's a pretty good margin. So it's not like it was like, oh, he barely won by 3 seconds at the end of the race. Like, he had pulled away. It didn't get to 20, unfortunately. But you weren't wrong. And again, trying to find any way to get in on him, which we'll talk about here in a second when we get to the next bet. Sometimes you just have to look around and find whatever value is out there.
Indeed. All right. Speaking of finding value, let's tell you about our brand new sponsor. We are proud to partner up with Avo, the premier sports betting arbitrage tool. If you're new to the arbitrage sports betting, it's very simple. All you got to do is bet both sides of a bet at 2 different sports books, and you're going to lock in a profit. The Avo tool scans the sports books looking for discrepancies in the odds. Then they tell you how much money you need to place with each sports book and the expected profit. This tool is super easy to use. It's lightning fast. It's a big part of arbitrage sports betting, lightning fast speed. You got to be on it. You got to be where the odds are. You got to find the discrepancies before they change. So Avo helps us do that. The best part of Avo is currently it's free to use without restrictions. That's right, completely free. Get started today at arbsvsodds.com. That's arbsvsodds.com. That's arbsvodds.com. Get in on this right now. I guess it's the best way to bet F1. Find both sides of a bet and see the discrepancies.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some big swings sometimes, especially, if you get something early in the week and then there's the opposite side of it later is not a bad way to look at it all as we see massive, massive swings. I mean, we're used to some swings in NASCAR for sure, but F1 odds really, really swing a lot, Rod. So, as I mentioned, trying to find a way to get in on Max. I did so by pairing him up with Martin Truex Jr. to win the Cup Series race. Look, we knew the Max part of this was a lock, right? He's going to win minus 700. Truex was about 7-1 or so going into the weekend. Over on Caesars, you put them together with the boost, you got 10-1. So you're basically just getting a bet on Truex to win at 10-1. Unfortunately, Truex didn't really have a shot, but he's good at the track previously. Again, if you want recap on NASCAR, you can go over to the NASCAR podcast. But unfortunately for the F1, it did not cash. The F1 side did, just the NASCAR side didn't hold up their end. And then again, taking darts with fastest laps, which, boy, that ticker was moving around constantly throughout this race. You had all the different tire strategies that was kind of spreading people out into different spots. So you'd come out on fresh tires, have open areas, and boom, fast lap, and then boom, fast lap, and boom, fast lap. I mean, Joe Guan Yu, I think, held it multiple times at one point. Russell had it for a while. Max ends up getting it at the end of the day, so maybe he was just playing with everyone, Rod, because it was near the end, too. It's just like, not even on fresh tires, he just goes and sets a fast lap, and you're like, okay, maybe he is just fucking with everybody. But so unfortunately, he didn't do it. But again, to win, you're not getting any value on betting guys to win because Max is going to continue to win. I know that Sainz won the last GP before this one because Max goes out, but trying to figure out when that's going to happen and then who it's going to be, it's just too much. And fastest lap's going to continue to be the place to do it. Had Lando 12-1 again, all in on McLaren. Didn't happen, unfortunately. And then had Alonso at 33-1. I don't ever really feel bad for taking Alonso at a number that big because he's the type of guy who can get it done. Alonso ended up being the 6th fastest lap on the day. So, again, that's not that impressive, but he was at least kind of somewhat in the mix up there. And if it's going to go chalky to Verstappen, it goes chalky to Verstappen. That happens. But Verstappen, more times than he doesn't get it. So I think fastest lap's still the way to go. It doesn't hit this week, but we'll be right back with the Chinese Grand Prix to try it again next week.
And I don't remember. Maybe it's because I forgot because the odds may not have been in our favor, but I don't remember what the number was, or even if there was an offering for Max to have the
And I
qualifying
feel like he,
lap and the win.
well, yeah, sometimes even that number is
That's
just
what I'm saying. I
close.
don't
I
think it
mean,
was good.
especially lately. I think it was still like minus 250 or so.
Yeah.
I don't recall it being great because I know I looked at it because coming off of the week, you're like, all right, he's going to be pissed off for losing in Australia, which was another reason to go into his just killing the field narrative, which didn't happen. But yeah, and the number wasn't that great. Sometimes you're going to get it better, sometimes you're not. But again, he doesn't always get the fastest lap, so it makes it hard to bet that too. Because even though you know the other things are going to come through, you're not getting the greatest number on the fastest lap. So delicate balance. Didn't hit it this week, but we've hit it enough times that we're going to keep doing it.
And Max proves that he's the fastest car in the world when he can put that lap up on hard tires, old hard tires.
Old tires at that. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, whatever. All right. So finally, and I said that obviously if Max is going to win, we might as well try to pump the odds down as much as humanly possible. So we'll put his partner on the podium with him. Well, they were standing right next to each other. 1, 2 on the podium were Red Bull. So Red Bull double podium at minus 125 hit. I know that it's not super sexy racing numbers, but Jesus Christ, when Max Verstappen is minus 6,000 to win the race, you got to figure out a way, like we said several times over, to make these better for you in the long run. Cody, you only pay the juice if you lose, and we did not lose this one. And listen, it wasn't even close because I mean I know that Perez had moments where he wasn't necessarily in contention yet, but because of strategy,
he was in contention. Yeah, he was in contention the whole time. It was just he shuffled back because of strategy, but there was no question. I mean, we hit this one a couple of weeks ago as well. I don't remember which race it was, but same number basically. This is just an auto bet. Likely we're not going to see this again until Checo has a down week, and then as soon as he does and the number gets back here, you got to jump on it. This is minus 200 or any lower than that. I think you just have to take it every week because these Red Bulls are just head and shoulders above everyone else. I know that Australia was an outlier, but we've seen enough the rest of the season that it's going to be these two guys more than it's not. And so, yeah, just one of the easiest bets you could have placed this week. And really, there was not much of a sweat to it. I mean, maybe as you start getting those pit strategies early, you're thinking, okay, maybe this won't shake out. But as the race unfolded, you realized this is not going to be an issue.
No, and for Perez, it was just we watched as he just stayed where he was and then lost it and then stayed where he was and he lost it. But there was no chance of him even getting Max first and foremost. And really there was no pressure from behind for him either. I mean, Sainz was 8 seconds behind him. So like it was Max and it was Checo and then everybody else was.
I don't even know if they showed Checo other than at the start of the race. Like if we ever saw him because he was just hanging out by himself the whole day and really just keeping that pace solid behind Max, doing his thing. And there was really no concern over this cashing. So, yeah, great call by you. I'm glad you hit a fair share of bets this week. I had a rough week, but hey, it's still gambling. That's how it goes, Rod. And I'm not worried about it. It just means I'm due. We're going to hit big at China.
We sure will. In fact, that's where we go next. Like you said, we go to China, but it's going to take us a minute. So next week we'll be back with the full Chinese slate as far as that is concerned. This week was just a recap because they had to take a week off to travel a few miles down the road to China.
I mean, we're staying on the same continent. Come on, we could do back-to-back weeks. Well, Williams can't because they don't have any chassis.
They needed to give Williams a chance to build those Lego chassis back up again. They're like, listen, we'll give you the bricks. You just got to put it together. So
this, by the way, China is going to be exciting, Rod, because we haven't raced here since 2019. So it was pre-COVID. So, you know, if you go back and look, sure, it's going to be not Max. It's going to be Lewis Hamilton all over the place, I'm sure, everywhere that you're going to see. But that's, you know, obviously a lot of things have changed over 5 years now. So track history, not really going to be one that plays into it. It's going to be more about current form and stuff. Interested to see. I haven't even looked to see if odds are up this week at all yet. But it'll be interesting to kind of see where the odds are at and what we can get in on for being a track that we don't have last year or the last couple of years to kind of look at. So should be pretty interesting. Max only minus 450, Rod. So I guess get in on that early if you want it.
Ooh, do I really want it? I don't know.
You probably might as well, I guess. But no, I'm never going to suggest betting a 450. So
Don't do it,
we
Cody.
will. That's why you come back next week, because we're going to find other ways. That's just outrights is all I'm seeing right now. But at the time we're recording this, but obviously we'll have a full slate of bets next week and break down that Chinese Grand Prix, which I'm excited to see a new circuit to us. I mean, neither of us were watching back in 2019, so this will be new place for us and new place for a lot of these drivers, and everybody else hasn't been there in a while. So it'll be exciting, and names and faces change, as we know. Sport's a lot different now for people at the top of the board than it was back in 2019.
And we'll break down all of that action just like Cody said. So, all right, Cody, as we send everybody off to get, I guess, ready for next week, as it were, where can everybody find you on social media?
Yep, follow me on the X at Husker_Zeeb. I got a ton of content that's out or that's coming out. Check it out. Lots of fun stuff happening here in the near future. So make sure you follow me over there so you can get all that stuff outside of the F1 world, outside of the NASCAR world, and I'll even tweet relevant things over there, of course, for that stuff as well. So follow me there. And then if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, the F1 Gambling Podcast, we appreciate it. Or if you're listening on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast feed, go subscribe to the other one's feed. And then if you want to watch on YouTube as well, we didn't get a chance to do this one live because of some timing issues, but we'll be live next week, I'm sure, for the picks show. So go to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast YouTube page, click that subscribe button, click the bell. It'll alert you when we are live, and you'll be able to jump in the comments and join us.
Indeed. I'm on X at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, whether it's in between media, whether it's the AFL, which, by the way, thank you and welcome to Cody for being part of the AFL team now. Looking forward to collabing with you over there as well. So can't shake this guy.
I'm excited. Just follow Rod and I'll be successful. That's my plan in life.
Well, we'll see about that. And we'll see you guys next week. Until then, everyone, let's go racing and let it ride.